Indonesia is an archipelago nation. It's got officially 1,072 different ethnic and sub-ethnic groups. So the diversity is certainly there. But it also has unity. It has one national language, Indonesian, Bahasa Indonesia, and it has successfully integrated its population. It has the fourth largest population in the world, and its national motto reflects this diversity. It encompasses a varied population, and yet they're all Indonesians, even though it has many different religions, it has many different cultures, it has many different native tongues represented. It's able to encompass this diversity. Its national motto is a lot like E Pluribus Unum in the United States, out of many one. But of course, the histories are different. Pop music has helped popularize the national language, if you will, by creating song texts that have currency within local communities. Spoken Indonesian or sung Indonesian becomes more attractive. And the everyday spoken Indonesian that is circulating in dangdut songs or pop songs becomes more attractive to people in far-flung areas as a result of dangdut becoming popular music there. Through Indonesian language popular song, the national language was propagated. And while scholars haven't paid a whole lot of attention to the role of popular song in propagating the national language, I think this has been very important, especially in Southeast Asia. And Indonesia is really one of the most remarkable places for national integration, despite the fact that so many different languages are spoken there. They have all agreed upon a national language to unite the whole country that isn't the language of a European colonizer. So it's actually quite an incredible story. And it's a story of linguistic consolidation that only happened in the last 70 years or so. So it's an interesting case study, and I think one of the ways that this attempt to unify the nation through one language, one of the ways it succeeded is through this process of circulating popular songs in the national language throughout the archipelago in the form of recordings. Well, dangdut is different than Indonesian pop. It contains a lot of non-Western elements, primarily Indian film music. Much of dangdut, maybe 2/3 of it, I guess you could say, comes from Indian popular film music. The propulsive dance rhythm is basically the same rhythm you hear in a lot of Hindi film songs, played on the tabla drum. The use of strings and flutes pretty much is based on Hindi film song. And a lot of the vocal techniques and instrumental techniques, the use of the mandolin from Hindi film song. But there are also other elements as well that come from other traditions, reggae, disco, a lot of hard rock, bands like Deep Purple, but also Middle Eastern popular music and Malay popular music also are important. But it is definitely not just straight Western sounding popular music, and that difference is celebrated. The fact that it is based on non-Western kinds of popular music. Indonesia has always taken things from the outside and adapted them. So the fact that foreign sources like Indian film music, like punk music, electric guitars, heavy metal music, reggae, things like this. The fact that these things have been appropriated and made to stand for things that are distinctly Indonesian, that can voice local concerns. This is nothing new in a society where all kinds of influences from the outside, Islam, Western-style government, Western-style capitalism, foreign technologies, Chinese-style noodles. A very long list of things have come to Southeast Asia from the outside, from the Arab world, from China, from India, from Europe, from America, right? Hollywood movies are as big there as they are anywhere. But all these things come from the outside and are adopted into the local culture. And this has been going on for thousands of years. The area of Indonesia in Southeast Asia has always been a crossroads. And dangdut and punk and heavy metal music, they're just the latest entries. And they're all phenomenally popular there. And they are used to articulate specifically located concerns and aspirations. Indie globalization is a term I coined that refers to how things circulate at a planetary level, not necessarily through the machinations of corporations who are primarily doing it in the name of profit, but just by people who want this stuff to circulate for other reasons than the profit motive, because they like the music, because they believe in the music, or they believe in the culture. And it's primarily referring to things like DIY punk or underground metal or underground hip hop, but primarily things that circulate without business profits being the major goal. Initially, underground music came to Indonesia the way you would expect. Bands like Metallica and Green Day and Nirvana, bands that were very, very popular around the world. Then these globally popular bands caused some people to dig a little deeper, to find out the less popular bands that influence the popular bands. So maybe you weren't satisfied with Green Day and you discovered the Sex Pistols, and you discovered the Clash, you discovered the Ramones. Less globally hype bands that were behind, that came before the more popular bands. So maybe behind Metallica you discover there was a Black Sabbath, there was an Iron Maiden, or even more obscure bands than that. You discovered Death Angel. And the other thing that I was told about was skateboarding. That a bunch of kids in Bandung in West Java started getting skateboarding magazines and started learning about the music that way. The music that skaters listened to in the 80s, that was skate punk music, punk and metal, and that was one way they learned about it. And that was glossy skateboarding magazines is sort of the gray area between mainstream and underground culture, but that was their way in. And this was before the internet, before much in the way of DIY media got started, but they had the glossy international skateboarding magazines. You could get those mailed to Indonesia if you had money, and this was before the economic crisis, and that's how they learned about it. So you could get access even back then, and that was the beginning. There was also a company called Valentine Sound Productions in Malaysia that used to re-release American thrash metal records, including some really obscure things, bands that no one had heard of. but were released in Southeast Asia. So there was a band called Apple Maggot Quarantine Area that was from around here, I think, somewhere in California. And I couldn't believe I could hear their songs being covered by bands in Indonesia, bands in Jakarta. But it's because their album had been re-released by Valentine Sound Productions, and you could get the album in Indonesia. So through various circuitous routes like that, underground music came to Indonesia. A lot of underground scenes talk about the importance of children of expats, of diplomats, people who go overseas, people who work on cruise ships. I'm sure there was some of that too, although I haven't heard anything firsthand about that. But that's how these things circulate. Once something is in a material form, circulation is by definition just what it does.